Machu Picchu is the most impressive living testimony of Inca civilization.
How do you do it at the top of a mountain?
It's absolutely breathtaking.
In 2025, researchers uncovered a hidden truth buried under Machu Picchu that stunned the world. What was long celebrated as a marvel of stonework and design now appears to have been built on something far darker. Beneath the mountain, scans revealed a secret system carved into the rock, unseen for centuries. This hidden foundation was not just a clever engineering choice. It was a concealed structure that kept the city standing while hiding something the Incas never meant outsiders to discover. The finding is forcing experts to admit Machu Picchu's survival came at a shocking cost. A timeless marvel of Inca ingenuity. High in the remote Peruvian Andes, hidden between the towering peaks of Machu Picchu and Huayna Picchu, sits one of the greatest unsolved puzzles of the ancient world, Machu Picchu. Built around 1450 AD, during the reign of the powerful Inca Emperor Pachacuti, this isolated city continues to astonish all who reach its heights. It rises nearly 2,430 meters above sea level, perched on a razor-thin ridge that clings to the mountainside. Below it, the Urubamba River carves through the valley like a coiled serpent. The sheer isolation of the site makes it feel more like a secret fortress than a city, like something that was never meant to be discovered. But it was real, and it was massive. Within the city, more than 150 stone structures were carefully designed and constructed. Temples, sacred sites, royal residences, storage buildings, and open gathering spaces. The Incas carved huge terraces into the steep mountainsides, transforming sheer drops into wide, flat layers for farming. These terraces stopped erosion and made survival at this height possible. They also built a complex network of staircases, canals, fountains, and drainage systems that brought clean water from mountain springs to every corner of the city. What truly stuns people to this day is the stonework. Massive granite blocks, weighing many tons, were shaped so precisely that they locked together without mortar. These same stones have held firm through centuries of earthquakes, torrential rain, and landslides. And yet, even with all we know about its architecture and ingenuity, the true purpose of Machu Picchu is still unclear. Was it a royal retreat, hidden away from the world? A sacred spiritual center used for ceremonies and celestial observation? A scientific site where crops were tested in different climates? Theories abound, but no single answer has ever been confirmed. What we do know is chilling. When the Spanish conquistadors arrived in Peru in the 1500s, Machu Picchu was already abandoned. Why would the Incas desert such an advanced, perfectly functioning city? That question continues to puzzle historians. Some believe they fled because of invasion or civil war. Others suggest a deadly outbreak of disease. Natural threats like landslides, water shortages, or earthquakes may also have forced an evacuation. But with no written records from the Incas, the truth remains buried. After the city was emptied, the jungle took over. Nature wrapped its roots and vines around every wall and pathway. For nearly 400 years, Machu Picchu disappeared beneath leaves and silence. Only local farmers and villagers remembered. They kept its existence alive through quiet stories passed down for generations. Then, in 1911, everything changed. One man, driven by unshakable determination and the belief that something ancient and incredible was waiting to be found, climbed deep into the mountains. The rediscovery that captivated the world. In 1911, Yale University historian and explorer Hiram Bingham III set out into the remote Peruvian Andes. His mission was not to find Machu Picchu, but to search for Vilcabamba. Scholars had argued for years about where it was located and whether it even still existed. Vilcabamba was the last capital of the Inca Empire after Cusco fell to Spanish forces in the 16th century. It was here that Manco Inca, one of the surviving sons of Huayna Capac and a leader of Inca resistance, and later his descendants, waged a desperate guerrilla war. The city became known as the final Inca refuge, hidden deep in the jungle, where disease, starvation, and constant Spanish raids slowly broke their strength. In 1572, Spanish forces captured Vilcabamba and executed its last ruler, Tupac Amaru I, who was the final sovereign of the Inca royal line. His death marked the true end of the Inca Empire. To historians, uncovering Vilcabamba would mean finding the place where the empire's final chapter closed. Bingham believed he could solve that mystery. He was not searching for Machu Picchu. He had no idea it was even there. The journey was brutal from the beginning. The Andes punished the team with every step. The mountains rose sharply, and the trails were so thin that the men could not look down without feeling sick. A single slip meant falling into the deep valleys below. The jungle slowed them at every turn. They hacked through vines, tore their clothes on sharp branches, and covered themselves in insect bites that left welts and bleeding skin. Higher up, the winds turned cold and cut through their wet clothing, leaving the men shivering and weak. At some point, the team began to doubt whether pressing forward was worth the risk. They could not be certain that Vilcabamba would ever be found, and they feared that the expedition would end in failure or worse. The team relied on local farmers for guidance. One of them, Melchor Artiega, played a decisive role. He led Bingham and the team along treacherous trails that hugged sheer cliffs. At some points, the group had to crawl on their hands and knees to avoid slipping into the abyss. Artiega insisted that something important lay ahead, and so the team followed. After days of horrifying search, then came the moment that changed everything. They reached a clearing, and through the overgrowth, Bingham saw the outlines of massive stone walls and terraces. As they pushed aside vines and trees, an entire hidden city came into view. Stairways climbed into the mist, terraces cut across the mountain, and stone structures stood as if frozen in time. This was not Vilcabamba. It was something completely unexpected. Bingham was stunned. He later admitted that he could hardly believe what he was seeing. His shock was not only at the size and detail of the city, but also at the fact that it had been forgotten for so long. He had not found the city he was looking for, but he had stumbled on something that would reshape the world's understanding of the Inca Empire. From the moment Hiram Bingham announced the rediscovery of Machu Picchu, theories swirled around it like a storm. With little evidence and no systematic excavation, imagination quickly filled the void. Each explanation seemed convincing at first, yet each carried shadows of doubt. These arguments shaped how the world viewed Machu Picchu, long before the 2025 discovery forced experts to look at it in a completely new way. Theories, myths, and a long search for meaning. One of the earliest and most popular ideas was that Machu Picchu served as a royal estate for the Inca Emperor Pachacuti. Writers imagined it as a palace in the clouds, a private retreat where the ruler could escape with his family and attendants. They described gardens filled with flowers, fountains that ran endlessly with fresh water, and terraces built for beauty rather than survival. It sounded peaceful, yet the more people thought about it, the less sense it made. The ridge was perilous, the climb unforgiving, and the city itself offered no sign of comfort. If Pachacuti wanted a retreat, why choose a place that seemed designed to break the body and test the mind? Others suggested Machu Picchu was built as a fortress. Supporters argued that its position made perfect sense for defense. The city was surrounded by cliffs on three sides, and the only approaches were narrow paths that could easily be guarded. They believed Inca soldiers had been stationed there to watch for invading Spanish forces or rival tribes pushing through the Andes. The image was dramatic, warriors patrolling the walls, keeping lookout for enemies climbing the trails below. But when archaeologists began excavating the site, the theory collapsed. No weapons were uncovered. There were no armories, no stockpiles of arrows or spears, and no barracks large enough to house soldiers. The city showed no burn marks, no damage from sieges, and no mass graves of fallen fighters. Instead, the layout revealed temples, plazas, and advanced water channels, not military structures. The idea of Machu Picchu as a fortress quickly lost credibility. A more practical explanation gained attention in the early decades. Some claimed Machu Picchu was an agricultural laboratory. The terraces, spread across different heights, were said to be test plots for crops. This theory suggested the Incas had turned the mountain into a giant experiment. It was neat and simple, but it ignored the obvious. Farming could be done on flatter, safer ground. Why build shrines, temples, and finely carved stone walls if all that mattered was food production? Others clung to the idea of pilgrimage. They pictured long lines of worshippers climbing the mountain in ritual processions. The city, in this view, was a holy destination. Yet this idea raised its own problems. If it was only a pilgrimage site, why construct such advanced water systems, homes, and terraces that supported permanent life? A temporary stop for pilgrims did not require such massive investment. Over time, these theories created an image of a city that was mysterious but misunderstood. Modern investigations would eventually strip these ideas away. Secrets uncovered, the pioneering digs that challenged views. From 1911 through 1915, Hiram Bingham's Yale-Peruvian expeditions carried out the first major scientific excavations at Machu Picchu. These early explorations marked a turning point in our understanding of the ancient city. In 1912, with the help of engineers like Elwood Urtis and osteologist George Eaton, the team began to clear away thick vegetation, map the sprawling city, and dig archaeological trenches. Their goal was to uncover the origins and purposes of the standing structures, to find burial sites, and to collect artifacts that would reveal how the people of Machu Picchu lived, worshipped, and built their city. As excavations went on, they dug deeper into burial caves, widened trenches, and collected a range of artifacts including ceramics, metal tools, and human remains. Among their most notable discoveries were skeletons, many of which Bingham first identified as women. This finding seemed to support an early theory that Machu Picchu had been a sanctuary for the Virgins of the Sun, known as the Akla. However, later analysis showed a much more diverse population. The remains included men and women of various ages and physical types. This challenged the initial theory and raised new questions about who lived there and what their roles might have been. The team also discovered the famous Intihuatana stone, carved directly from the mountain bedrock. Its precise alignment suggested it was connected to solar observation and held great ceremonial importance. Alongside this, they mapped out the city's different sectors, dwelling areas, storehouses, temples like the Temple of the Sun, plazas, and fountains. All these findings confirmed that Machu Picchu was far more than a small refuge or hideout. It was a large, carefully planned city built with incredible skill and purpose. The world reacted with amazement to these discoveries. Interestingly, very little attention was paid to what lay beneath the ruins during these early expeditions. Bingham and his team mostly treated the mountain itself as a backdrop rather than a key part of the mystery. They noticed that the site had an unusually effective drainage system, and that the soil beneath the terraces appeared carefully layered, but they did not explore these features in detail. Some of the most puzzling questions remained unanswered. Why was such a remote, rugged location chosen? How did the Incas manage water so effectively on steep mountain slopes? Where did they source the enormous stone blocks? Why and when was Machu Picchu abandoned? These mysteries would stretch on for decades, driving more refined excavations and new studies that promise to reveal even more startling truths about Machu Picchu. Digging deeper. In 1934, archaeologist Luis E. Valcarcel carried out systematic excavations. He showed that Machu Picchu was not just a pile of ruins. It was a planned city. Some buildings were clearly used as homes, while others were designed for religious purposes. That simple fact immediately changed the way the site was understood. This was not an accidental settlement or a temporary camp. In the 1940s, researcher Paul Fejos expanded the study of Machu Picchu. He examined how the site fit into the larger Inca Empire and mapped the roads that stretched across the Andes. His work showed that Machu Picchu was not an isolated mountain refuge. It was connected to the imperial capital of Cusco, which was the political and religious heart of the empire. Roads also linked it to Ollantaytambo, a major fortress and administrative center, and to Vilcabamba, the last stronghold of the Incas after the Spanish invasion. Other routes tied it to regional settlements that supplied food, labor, and soldiers. These connections proved that the people who lived at Machu Picchu were not cut off. They were part of a tightly controlled imperial network. They were expected to provide labor, obey imperial authority, and contribute to the survival of the empire. By the 1960s and 1970s, the picture became even darker. For years, people had wondered how the enormous stones of Machu Picchu had been moved without wheels, strong animals, or advanced tools. Archaeologists found evidence of quarrying within the mountain itself. Large blocks of granite were cut out and then dragged using ropes, levers, and sheer muscle power. Each block, some weighing many tons, was forced up steep inclines and positioned by hand. The stones were moved by human bodies alone. Workers used ropes, crude levers, and ramps built from dirt and rock. Imagine dozens of men straining together, step by step, dragging a single block up steep inclines, knowing that a slip could crush anyone in its path. The evidence left behind shows how each massive stone was shifted by sheer force of will. The ruins were described as mysterious rather than deliberate, and their knowledge was ignored. Now the evidence is clear. The Incas knew exactly what they were doing. What do you think about this discovery? Comment down below.